Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises and work out how it all lines up. There's been a bit of an interesting development in the world of shared continuities I've already covered. Well, two, but wait, have I done this already? This time we'll be discussing developments in the Street Fighter shared universe timeline, so be sure you've seen that episode first. And if my voice sounds off at all, it's because I'm getting over a cold and I can't be arsed waiting to record any longer. Basically, the lesson here is that Randall was right.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
The final fighter added to Street Fighter V as part of the second season of DLC was Zeku, the master of Guy from Final Fight. Zeku had previously appeared in Guy's Street Fighter Alpha 2 ending where Guy succeeded him, becoming the 39th master of the Bushin-Ryu School of Ninjutsu. With not much else to do now that Guy has the reins, Zeku decides to create an all-new school of ninjutsu with an all-new style to go along with it. While trying to come up with a name, one of the ones he thinks up is Striders, the name of the organisation that Strider protagonist Strider Hiryu hails from.
What his right name is I've never heard, but around here he's known as Strider.
To further solidify this, Zeku can transform into a younger form who greatly resembles Hiryu and even utilises a number of his moves, and Original Strider is the name of a title that can be unlocked for the player by playing as Zeku. And this is no mere illusion, they could have just based Zeku's moveset on Guy's, but they reached to a completely separate series and even made it part of his story. This seems to be a concerted effort by Capcom to further tie more of their properties together. I mean, yeah, the real reason they did this was so they could sell a Strider DLC for SF5 to drum up more DLC sales before they released the arcade edition, but still. But exactly what story are they incorporating here? Well, let's find out. Strider began way back in 1988 with a three-part project between Capcom and the artist group Moto Kikaku. Capcom produced both an arcade game and a NES game similar to Ninja Gaiden's Genesis, while Moto Kikaku produced a 6-chapter manga that was serialized from May to October 1988. The manga, Strider Hiryu, is set in 2048, 2 years after Hiryu retired from the Striders organization after he was forced to kill his allegedly mad older sister. The nation of Kazakh is in the midst of an armed uprising against the dictator that rules it. 2 Striders are sent in to deal with the dictator, but one of them is captured. Hiryu is then forced out of retirement to complete the mission himself. He discovers that the villains are experimenting with mind control technology, which he realizes his sister was subjected to. He defeats the villains, thereby avenging her death, stamps out the corruption in the Striders, and returns to his retirement. In December, a standalone chapter, Strider Hiryu Gaiden, was released, taking place 6 months after the death of Hiryu's sister and following his final mission as a Strider. March 89 saw the release of the arcade game simply titled Strider. The story is an alternate tale set in 2048, or Mayo Year 1, where the mysterious Grandmaster Mayo controls all technology and military force on the planet. Opposing him is a rebel force which hires the services of the Striders, an enigmatic group of elite ninja mercenaries. The Striders assign their youngest A-class agent, Hiryu, to storm Mayo's base in Russia and put an end to the dictator. Hiryu pursues Mayo to his space station base and eliminates him. The US exclusive NES game, also titled Strider, released in July, though it was intended to release in Japan in late 88. The plot is an adaptation of the manga, but with a few changes here and there. Strider 2 was developed not by Capcom, but Tiertex Design Studio and published by US Gold in 1990, following a new Strider named Hinjo. Naturally, this isn't considered canonical. Capcom would eventually make a proper sequel, Strider 2, in 1999, following Hiryu's inclusion in the original Marvel vs. Capcom. The story picks up 2,000 years after the arcade game with a rogue Strider named Hien reviving Mayo and wiping out the other Striders. Only Hiryu survives and is presumably not the same Hiryu from the original, even though it's the same Mayo. Events play out largely the same as last time since the game was apparently developed as a remake, but if that is indeed the case, then I've got no idea why or when it became a sequel. It wasn't until 2014 that another title would release. There had been plans back in 2009 under Grin, the studio behind the Bionic Commando reboots, but nothing came to pass until Double Helix's Strider released on 7th and 8th gen systems. Set in Mayo 0048, which according to the original Mayo calendar should be 2095, this game is another retelling of the original arcade game. So the Strider continuities are as follows: the mangas, NES, Arcade and Strider 2, Arcade and Strider 2, 2014. As for which one is most likely to now be part of the Street Fighter canon, it has to be the 2014 version. It's the most recent take on the relatively obscure mythos and is thus the one people nowadays actually know. I mean, I bet a lot of you haven't even seen Hiryu's classic design and that most of you didn't even know there was a manga. And since we're talking about Street Fighter, let's also delve into mistakes and omissions from last time. First, the Street Fighter IV series received 2 canonical OVAs. The first was a prequel to Vanilla titled The Ties That Bind, which introduces Crimson Viper, and the other was Super Street Fighter IV original video animation nicknamed the Jory OVA, which obviously introduces Jory Han. Naturally, both are lead-ins to their respective games. SF4's Aftermath trailers focus on Ryu, Chun-Li, Sakura and Crimson Viper shortly after the events of Street Fighter II. Viper investigates the site of the tournament, with a flashback showing Bison fighting Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile and Kami shortly after the tournament. This suggests either that Akuma's role in SF2 was retconned, or that I was simply misinformed. 4 and 5 did retcon Charlie's death from his Alpha 3-1 to his Alpha 2-1, leaving his exact role in the Alpha storyline unclear, so either is possible. Sagat hosted the first tournament apparently. A surprising number of people felt the need to tell me that one. Likewise, Sakura isn't in school anymore by the time of SF4 and just wears a uniform as her training gear, the friggin' poser. As it turns out, there is actually another series that is part of the Street Fighter shared universe, 1991's Captain Commando. Captain Commando is set in 2026 Metro City, and one of the captain's comrades, Ginzu, is said to be trained in Bushin-Ryu. However, Yuta Homura's bio on the Street Fighter V website mentions Captain Commando as an arcade game. Ultimately, if we're going to weigh in-game information against an external website, I think the in-game info should take priority, thereby making Captain Commando part of the Street Fighter canon in between Third Strike and Strider 2014. Some fans don't consider Final Fight Revenge to be canon, which is fine. It's just a matter of personal preference really. Do you consider Zombie Belga to be canon? Weirder things have happened, so personally, I say yes. The Street Fighter EX games are not canonical. In a way, they're retroactive crossovers with the new IP by Arika that features the EX characters alone. However, being co-owned by Capcom, the characters are still canonical as, for example, Darun Meister is a friend Zangief entrusts his chess piece to in SF5 according to the forum's website bio. No, Street Fighter 2010 is not canonical. They turned protagonist Kevin Straker into Ken in the American localization and claimed he won the World Warrior Tournament, then stopped practicing martial arts to become a fucking scientist.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
That's bullshit and you know it. Kevin does have a bio on the Street Fighter V website, so the Japanese version could be canonical, but there aren't any firm connections to Street Fighter like the EX cast have. And it occurs to me that if the game had released about a decade later, Kevin would most likely have been turned into Albert Wesker from Resident Evil. The backstory actually makes some sense that way. Tekken 7 is also not canon. I joked about it in the previous video, but really, this character can only be viewed as an alternate version of Akuma who is native to the Tekken universe. I'll get more into this in the future. Some of these things were pointed out and suggested by viewers, which I really appreciate. But source your corrections, people. Just saying, actually, this is how it goes. Without anything to back it up is worthless. Like how 4 is allegedly set a few months after 2, but it's not stated in the game itself? Then where is it stated, motherfucker? As for the future of this extended web of shared continuity that DC only wishes it could pull off, we have the upcoming SF5 Arcade Edition, which will introduce an expansive arcade mode with multiple endings per character. It likely won't introduce a whole lot of important plot points after Vanilla's main plot was told in a cinematic story mode. Or maybe arcade mode will be a sequel story like Alpha 3, Third Strike and Super 4, who knows? Then again, with the structure of the arcade mode having roots based on previous games, it could well base the endings on those games and explain the series timeline, which would make these videos redundant. Shit. If you like this video, why not subscribe and check out some of these other videos? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. How long have they been planning this?